Barry Parker, thank you very much for joining us on the program.
Thanks for having me on.
I remember sitting here with you earlier this year where we were talking about regular reports of pirate attacks. This no longer seems to be the case. What's changed?
Well, the frequency of the attacks is probably up a little bit. It just doesn't grab the headlines. The things that have changed, they've gone farther out. Now some of the attacks are 1,000 miles out. In fact, they're closer to India than they are to Somalia. But I think what I would say is it's become a lot of business as usual in the shipping industry. It's figured out how to cope with it.
What do you mean by business as usual?
Well, the vessels have gotten better equipped. There's been much more publicity with some of those high-profile attacks. There are standard procedures or recommendations what to do to avoid an attack. And the other thing is the insurance industry has really figured out exactly how to apportion the costs and how to handle these situations. So each one of them is not a brand new event.
What did the pirates end up costing the shippers in terms of higher insurance premium rates?
Well, there's a mechanism in insurance called the war risk insurance, and that gets a lot of it, and that can be something like $50,000, $100,000 maybe on a voyage. But of course, that's different from the ransom. The ransoms are in the range of $3 and $4 million. That's kind of like we're talking about in the spring.
So, is piracy then no longer a major threat?
Well, as long as there's not a loss of life, again, I use the words business as usual. It's part of the process. People can protect against it better, but it's still a danger. Another thing that might have changed is West Africa is attracting a lot more attention. Off the coast of Nigeria, it was always an unsettled area. There have been more attacks lately, and in fact, there was a high-profile case where a ship's officer was killed. This is within the past 6 weeks.
Why is Nigeria attractive to pirates?
It's an oil loading area, so there are tankers there full of oil that's now gone up in price. So at $80 a barrel, it's more attractive than it was when it was $30 a barrel.
Right, and briefly, how many crew and how many vessels are still being held, and what's the status of the negotiations to free people who are still being held by pirates?
Right now, there are not precise numbers, but people talk about 15 vessels, maybe 20, are being held at this point, and you're talking maybe about 250, 300 people that are the seafarers who are being held hostage.
All right, Barry Parker, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me on.